My name's Haley Kim. I'm 32. And until the day my father died, I was the family disappointment no one tried to hide. I work as a design engineer for a mid-size consumer tech company in Chicago. It's not flashy. I don't make six figures. But I love what I do. I build things, solve problems. I make people's lives easier. That's not enough in the Kim family. Not when both of your older brothers are surgeons and your father is doctor. David Kim, former department chair, guest lecturer at Ivy League conferences, and a man who wore his family's achievements like medals on a blazer. I grew up in a household where praise was a foreign language. Perfection was expected, not applauded. While my brothers got trophies, accolades, and recommendations from Dad's network, I got ignored. I wasn't rebellious. I didn't drink or sneak out or break laws. I just wasn't good enough. The breaking point came on my father's 70th birthday. He'd recently recovered from a minor stroke, so we hosted a quiet dinner at a family friend's house. Just close relatives, a few colleagues, nothing over the top. At least that's what I thought. About halfway through dessert, someone brought up legacy. Noah, my oldest brother, made a joke about how Peter was clearly inheriting the research brain, and Dad laughed like it was gospel. Someone else, maybe a cousin, asked what I was working on. Before I could even answer, my father waved his hand. "She's doing her little gadgets thing," he said, chuckling. "Nothing academic, nothing lasting." The room laughed. I didn't. I just sat there with a fork in my hand, eyes fixed on a half-eaten piece of tiramisu, pretending my face wasn't burning. Then he added, loud enough for everyone to hear, "It's a shame, really. Haley had the most potential, but she's always been too soft, too stubborn, too much her mother." He meant my mom, the one who left when I was 10, the one he never forgave for choosing freedom over image. Silence. Then a few awkward coughs. Peter reached for the wine bottle. Noah checked his phone. I wanted to speak, to remind him that I graduated with honors, that I built 2 product patents, that I got promoted last year after landing a multi-million-dollar client contract. But I didn't say a word. I just sat there and took it. Again. Because somewhere deep down, a part of me still thought, maybe if I stay quiet, he'll stop being disappointed long enough to see me. Spoiler, he didn't. After dinner, as people filtered out, he pulled me aside near the coat closet. "Haley," he said, not unkindly, "it's not too late to do something meaningful. You could still apply to med school. Or teach. Something respectable." I looked him straight in the eye and said nothing. He patted my shoulder like I was a well-behaved intern. Think about it. That was the last conversation we ever had. 2 months later, he collapsed on the stairs at the university library, gone before the ambulance even arrived. And somehow, in the middle of all the grief and the chaos and the barely veiled jabs from family about who would handle what he left behind, I received a letter from our family lawyer. Hand-delivered, thick ivory paper, my full name written in my dad's handwriting. Inside was a one-line note. "You always asked for nothing, so I left you something that matters. But don't open it yet. Wait until they come for you." That's all it said. No explanation, no will, no instructions. Just a warning. And now, 3 days after his funeral, I got a text from my brother Noah. "We need to talk. Family business. Be at Mom's tomorrow, 4 p.m. sharp. No emojis, no condolences. Just a command." I don't know what they're planning, but something tells me, whatever. He left me. It wasn't just for me. I showed up at Mom's house the next day, right at 4 p.m., like Noah's text had ordered. It was raining. Of course it was. And I remember standing on the porch for a second, just staring at the door I used to sneak out of in high school. I don't know what I was expecting. A family talk? Some kind of weird emotional truce now that Dad was gone? Instead, the door opened before I even knocked. Noah stood there, arms crossed. Behind him I saw Peter, and 2 men in suits I didn't recognize. "Come in," Noah said. His voice was flat. I stepped inside and immediately felt like I'd entered a courtroom. Everyone was already seated in the living room. Mom was perched on the edge of her armchair, like she was hosting some classy brunch. The 2 men in suits, one gray, one navy, were sitting where the old family photo albums used to be stacked. Peter barely glanced at me. "Haley," Mom said, with a practiced smile that never touched her eyes. "This is Mr. Callahan and Mr. Denton. They're here to help us sort out the estate. It's all just paperwork." I didn't sit. I looked at them and then at her. "No one told me there'd be lawyers." "They're not lawyers," Noah said quickly. "Just consultants." "Right," I said. "So why are they holding legal folders?" Peter rolled his eyes. "Jesus, Haley, can you not make everything a scene?" I finally sat slowly. My heart was pounding, but I forced my hands to stay still. "I thought Dad had a will." "He did," Mom said, folding her legs like this was some casual afternoon chat. "But it's incomplete. There are some inconsistencies that could cause problems, especially with the studio. The studio, the place Dad built from scratch, his life's work. That wasn't incomplete. That was his everything. We'd like to propose a family agreement," Mr. Callahan said smoothly. "One that ensures everyone benefits fairly and without unnecessary legal drama." Peter reached for a document on the table and slid it toward me. "You still have the keys to the studio, right? This just transfers ownership back to the family trust. You'll still be part of the board. We're not cutting you out." I didn't touch it. "What trust?" I asked. "And who's managing it?" "Noah," Mom answered too fast. "He has the experience. He's handled real property before." I laughed. It just came out. Dry, bitter. Noah's last experience with real property was renting an Airbnb under Dad's name and trashing it. "Uncalled for," Noah snapped. "What's uncalled for?" I said, turning to face them fully. "Is pretending like Dad didn't make it very clear what he wanted." That wiped the smirks off their faces. I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out the sealed envelope. The one from Dad. I hadn't opened it. Not yet. I didn't know why, but some gut part of me said it wasn't time. I held it up. "Dad gave this to the family lawyer. Told him to deliver it to me after he died." "You know what it says?" They all stared. Peter looked pale. "I don't either," I continued, "because I haven't opened it, but I will. And if there's any mention of the studio or anything else you're trying to get me to sign away, that's going straight to probate." Mom stood up now, her tone turning cold. "You think this is about money, Haley? You think your father would have really left you that place? He barely even trusted you with the thermostat, let alone his business." I felt something crack open in me. Not anger, not pride. Just something old and tired finally snapping free. "I think," I said slowly, "that he knew exactly who all of you were. And he left that studio to someone who wouldn't sell it off for a timeshare in Aspen." Silence. Peter pushed the paper toward me again. "This offer is good until Friday. After that, we'll have to contest." "Contest what?" I asked, my voice low. "A will you haven't seen?" He flinched. That's when I knew. They didn't have a clue what Dad had done, and neither did I. That night, I sat in my apartment with the envelope on my lap. I stared at it for a long time, heart racing. Then I opened it. Inside was a letter, handwritten, 1 page. "Haley, you asked for nothing. You earned everything. The studio is yours. The title transfer is enclosed. They'll come for it. Be ready. Dad." And attached to the letter was a certified deed with my name on it. The next morning, I called in sick. I wasn't sick, not in the way my boss meant. But something was unraveling inside me, fast. After reading Dad's letter and seeing the studio deed with my name on it, I just sat there. All night, lights off. Letter clutched, like it might vanish if I blinked. I'd spent 3 decades shrinking myself to survive in a family that treated me like noise. Now I held proof that the only person I'd ever wanted to impress had seen me clearly the whole time. And he was gone. By noon, I was standing inside the studio. The space hadn't changed much. Same concrete floors, same weird coffee smell, same stubborn water stain near the back windows. But it felt different, like something sacred had been left behind. Waiting. I don't know what made me go into his office. Maybe curiosity. Maybe a pull I couldn't explain. The filing cabinet was locked, but the key was still taped underneath his old desk drawer. right where he used to hide gum when we were kids. Inside the bottom drawer was a leather-bound journal. It looked worn, pages thick with ink. I opened to the first page. Started this for myself, in case they twist things later. Or in case I forget who I gave too many chances to. The handwriting was his. No doubt. Every page was dated. Every entry detailed another financial favor he'd done for my brothers or my mom. $30,000 wired to Noah for medical debt that turned out to be a Vegas trip. $18,000 to cover Peter's loan default that magically aligned with his girlfriend's new engagement ring. There were receipts, screenshots, bank statements, printouts of Instagram posts he'd saved as proof. My father, who never said a damn word, had documented everything. I flipped to the most recent pages. I gave Haley nothing because she never asked. I'm giving her everything because she never expected it. I dropped the journal, my knees buckled. Not from shock, but from the realization that my whole life I thought I was invisible to him. Turns out, he saw more than anyone else. That afternoon, I scanned every page of that journal, uploaded it to the cloud, sent copies to my lawyer, just in case, and I still didn't know what I was going to do next. Until Noah showed up. He banged on my door like he was the police. I didn't open it, just cracked the window next to the porch. "What do you want?" I asked, trying to sound calmer than I felt. He didn't waste time. "Mom says you have something that belongs to the family. You mean Dad's studio?" He scoffed. "You think he meant to give that to you?" He was on blood thinners, probably not thinking straight. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I just held up my phone and said, "I have a recording of this, by the way. Keep talking." That made him pause. Then he said something I'll never forget. "Fine. Keep it, but you should know you weren't the first person he gave that deed to." I blinked. "What are you talking about?" He smirked. Asked Peter about the version he got, dated 2 months earlier. And just like that, he walked off my porch. I stood frozen. I went back inside, dug through my files, found the title Dad had left me, dated July 17th. Then I pulled up my email and searched. And there it was. An auto-forwarded copy from our old family email chain. Peter had sent out a funny old memory in late May. Attached to that message, a PDF copy of a deed. Same property, different name. His. My stomach dropped. I don't know what hurts more. The idea that my dad promised it to both of us? Or that Peter might have forged it first, betting I'd never fight for it. If you've ever had to question whether the last good thing someone gave you was even real, you'll understand the ache I'm sitting with right now. Not the kind of ache you cry over, the kind that burns quietly and makes you wonder if you ever really belonged anywhere to begin with. If you've been there, if someone made you feel like a placeholder in your own life, you're not alone, and I really hope you stayed. Because the next part? That's when I stop apologizing for existing. By the time I walked into Mom's house for the final discussion, I wasn't scared anymore. Nervous? Sure. But scared? No, I wasn't the same Haley they'd laughed off at Dad's birthday. I wasn't the soft-spoken daughter who smiled through insults and swallowed rage. I was someone who had proof. And more importantly, I was someone who had nothing left to lose. They were already waiting in the living room. Mom wore her hostess mask, all pleasant smiles and polished pearls. Noah and Peter were flanking her like bodyguards, stiff and smug. The two so-called consultants from last time were there again. Callahan and Denton, both with fresh leather folders and fake concern in their eyes. "Haley," Mom greeted me all sugar and ice. "Thank you for coming. We really hope we can all move forward peacefully today." I sat down across from her. Didn't smile, didn't blink, just laid my leather folder in my lap. Callahan started first, of course. As we discussed previously, the current title to the studio is, let's say, disputed. It's in everyone's best interest to settle out of court. We've prepared a revised version of the family agreement. I held up a hand. "No need. I brought my own documents." Peter rolled his eyes. "Haley, come on. Let's be adults. This isn't about punishing each other. It's about protecting Dad's legacy." I nodded. "Great. Let's talk legacy." I opened my folder and began laying the pages out on the coffee table. Page 1. The original deed to the studio, signed and notarized with my name on it. Page 2. A forensic audit report from a friend of a friend who works in digital forensics, analyzing metadata from the version Peter claimed Dad gave him. Page 3. A detailed side-by-side showing that Peter's document was created 3 weeks after Dad died. Peter's face turned pale. Noah shifted in his seat. "What is this?" Mom snapped. "It's called evidence," I said calmly. Peter forged a title transfer and sent it to family over email, assuming I'd never check metadata. Rookie move. Denton cleared his throat, clearly uncomfortable. "That's a very serious accusation, Miss Kim." "It's not an accusation," I replied. "It's a felony. I've already sent these files to a lawyer. And before you ask, yes, an actual one, not whatever this is." Noah stood up. "You're going to ruin everything over one stupid building?" I stood too. "It's not just a building. It's everything Dad built, and you were planning to sell it to fund a real estate flip in Arizona." Their silence told me I'd nailed it. Peter suddenly exploded. "You think you're better than us? Because Dad handed you something out of guilt?" My voice didn't waver. "No, I think I'm the only one he trusted not to cash it in for a goddamn golf membership." And then I pulled out the last piece, Dad's journal. I opened it to the entry about the loan Peter had claimed for closing costs. I read it aloud. Peter asked for $45,000 to cover escrow. Found out he used it for a down payment on a Tesla. Never even said thank you. Peter lunged across the table, trying to grab the journal. And that's when Jason stepped out from the hallway. "Yeah, Jason, my cousin, Peter's youngest son." "I told you she had it, Dad," he said, voice low but steady. "And I told you forging Grandpa's name would come back to bite you." Peter froze. Noah turned red. Mom sat there speechless. Jason looked at me, really looked at me, and said, "You were right about all of it." Twist? Jason had been recording everything. He held up his phone. "Started back when Dad said he'd make sure you never touched a penny of that building. I didn't know what to do at first, but I couldn't watch them lie about Grandpa anymore." The room imploded. Peter lunged at his own son. Mom screamed something about betrayal. Noah stormed out. But me? I just stood there. For the first time in my entire life. I wasn't the one backing down. If you've ever been told to keep quiet for the sake of family, well, they tore your name apart. I want you to know you don't owe anyone your silence, especially not the people who built their comfort on your erasure. And if you've ever been the quiet one in the room, the overlooked one, the afterthought, please stay. We're not invisible anymore. The fallout was fast. After Jason handed over the full recording to my lawyer, we filed a formal report. Forgery, document tampering, attempted coercion. Peter tried to deny everything until he realized Jason had backed up the files to a drive before walking into that meeting. Noah went silent. Completely disappeared from group chats, even Mom's. He knew what was coming. Peter lawyered up, of course. But the moment we presented Dad's notarized deed and the forensic analysis of Peter's forgery, the air went out of his defense. He tried to settle. I declined. This wasn't about revenge. It was about truth and dragging it out into the daylight. As for Mom, she didn't take it well. Not because of the legal stuff, but because I won. In her mind, that was the ultimate betrayal. I offered her a monthly stipend through a restricted trust, just like Dad had arranged. She called it charity. I called it boundaries. We haven't spoken since. The studio, though, that became something else entirely. I didn't just inherit a building. I inherited his unfinished blueprints. Dad had been working on a community workspace for underfunded design students. Tucked in a corner of the studio, no one ever noticed. He left notes, drafts, even a list of names. Young designers he'd mentored over the years, quietly, behind the family's back. So I finished it. I used a portion of the estate to renovate that space. Turned it into a functional co-op studio with free access to tools, mentorship programs, and workshops. Named it the Quiet Room because that's what I had been. The quiet one. Until I wasn't. Jason ended up moving in with me that summer, He's in college now, studying environmental design. He helps run the co-op on weekends. He's good at it, thoughtful, observant. He doesn't want the spotlight, just a place to build something real. I see myself in him, the version of me I wish someone had seen sooner. Rachel, our cousin, reached out too. Quietly. Said she never knew the truth about what her dad was doing. She visited the co-op last month. Sat in the back of a class. Didn't speak but cried the whole time. She said she'd be back. I believe her. Peter took a plea deal, community service, fines. But the real punishment wasn't the court. It was the press release we put out when I relaunched the studio under my name. Legally, publicly, permanently. Every sponsor, every contractor, every former mentor of his saw it. And when people asked where Peter had gone, well, he just became another guy who got caught taking credit for someone else's legacy. And that stung more than jail ever could. You know, I used to think closure meant getting an apology, getting the people who hurt you to say, I was wrong. But that's not it. Closure is waking up one day and realizing you don't need their permission to move forward. It's not about proving your worth. It's about living in it. I still walk into that studio some mornings, embrace myself for the echo of disappointment. But then I hear a student laugh. I see someone sketching by the window where Dad used to drink his coffee. And I remember, he left me something more powerful than money. He left me a chance to make it matter. The real lesson? Sometimes the people who hurt you the most are the ones closest by blood. But the people who see you, who stand beside you when it counts, they're the ones who make you whole again. If you've ever had to fight for your space, your voice, your worth, I hope you'll share your story in the comments. I read all of them. And if this journey resonated with you, stick around. We've still got more to build.